they have things to talk about, what is it that's stopping you from picking up the phone and finding a therapist?
Okay.
And discussing the things you want to discuss.
Right.
So the first theme, if you will, that came up is, what would you tell someone as a therapist who are afraid to find a therapist for fear of rejecting them? The way my friend described it was very much, I'm the car and I need to find a trusted mechanic. How do I know who I'm giving the keys to the car to? How can I trust that they know what guidance or advice they're going to give me?
So you'll get, suggestions that are open suggestions, but you won't really be advised, because we're not here to do that. You can go to your friends if you want advice. That's not what therapy is about. How do you know? You can check out our qualifications if you'd like. We're usually advertised on the website, so you can have a look and see if that's a match. Does that person match with me? Do I gel with them? Just by looking, quite often, we can look at a person on paper and say, kind of like the look of them. They seem to know. So a little bit similar to when we met. What was that like for you? What made you say, I'm going to stay?
I have faith in the process.
Okay.
And I think we will come back to that later, because
Right.
I think there's some trust the process but don't trust themselves.
Exactly, yeah.
Some trust themselves but don't trust the process. They think they have the answers already, so why would I need a therapist?
And they might not know what the process is either. Okay.
So for me, our outlooks were entirely different.
Right.
But I came into therapy in a state of horrible depression. So I'm glad our outlooks were very different, or we'd both be very depressed.
Okay.
So I think there's a part, like, it's almost trial and error. You might need to devote 45 minutes with a stranger and see if you gel.
Exactly, and that's exactly where it is with anything, when we put our trust in strangers all the time, don't we, all the time? I mean, how many times do you put the trust into somebody you've never met?
Yeah.
Every time you order something off the internet?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Has that answered the question?
I think so.
Okay.
And truthfully, there is no answer to how do I know. You either do or you don't.
Exactly, but we can always find out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then the other theme I kept coming against was the fear of giving up control to someone.
Okay. What does that mean? Can you explain that?
That's what I'm trying to wrap my head around, because what I think they mean is you come into a room where you're expected to be vulnerable. You're expected to open up and discuss the things that are affecting you.
Where did you get that expectation from?
I think what we know, what we see about therapy in popular culture is...
Right, so you're expected to do these things. Is that what you believe?
I think so.
Okay, yeah? Who expects that?
The ego.
Yeah.
But really, I think the question arises from somebody who really cares for control. They want to feel in control all the time. I can see why, whether it's the story in your head or what you see on films or series, can make you feel, oh, if I go into that room, I'm no longer in control. So I'm wondering, as a therapist, if you heard that from a client, what would you tell them? Are they giving up any control?
No, because it's not about control, and no one can make you feel a kind of way unless you decide to agree with that. Yeah, so even that's everything that you do is in your control. You might not know that. You think I've relinquished control and I've given all this to the therapist. It's like, what are you giving to the therapist then? What's contained in the control?
I can't answer that because I don't have that question.
All right. So and does the therapist want control?
I never thought it.
Right, okay.
In my experience, just from us, if I don't take outside other therapy, past therapy into account, it felt very much like your job in our sessions was to remind me I'm in control all the time.
Yeah.
Every choice is my choice. Do I want to? I can. Do I not? I don't have to.
Yeah. So I guess these things so far is what you're asking is as if, you know, the therapist wants something as an expectation. And the questions so far seem to be about an expectation from a therapist without meeting them to find out if they actually have an expectation. But you're coming with your expectations, so why would we have one?
Yeah. I think the crux of it, and it all revolves around the fear of judgment.
Okay.
The fear that you're coming again, the same themes, into a room, just two people, strangers, and back again, the same word, I know I'm repeating myself, but vulnerability, all of these things are happenings in this room, or in any room like this. And if you've been conditioned long enough to think expressing myself equals weakness, that's been a big of mine, and if I show my weakness, I will be vulnerable to people exploiting it, i.e. to the therapist. Again, there is that need for trust, to know that I can be as open and tell you the worst things that I've felt or done, and know that you're not there to judge, you're not there to pass criticism. You have no interest in that.
Well, you've already answered then.
Yeah, sorry.
But you can answer, because I can say I'm not going to judge you, but ultimately then you can say, I can ask you, did I judge you?
No.
And you say no, so there you answered that, and the best person to answer would be you.
Yeah. Again, you'll see the theme is identical. We come into the room and we speak about ourselves, and we speak about ourselves to somebody who will not open up about their personal life, their work life, what they do in their spare time. You know nothing, or I know nothing about you outside of this room, and I'm okay with that. What would you say to someone who thinks it should be reciprocal? That if you know so much about me, I should know something about you?
Because it's a therapeutic relationship about you. So I'm not coming to you with my story and my problems. You're coming to me. And you're paying for a service which is about you. And the best place that you can do you is in therapy. Because where else are you going to do it? So how does it feel for you to sit here and it all be about you?
At first, odd.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like you're on a stage and there's that big light and it only follows you in the room. No matter where you go, the focus is on you. I've never had an issue with it, but I can see, or I can understand why some people's story is, no, if I know nothing about you, I won't open up to you.
Yeah, and you can do that outside. You can do that with friends. Yeah, you tell me about you, and reciprocate that. But this isn't that.
Yeah.
This is something else. So from your experience at the beginning, you said you didn't mind it and it was quite strange. From your experience now of it being about you, did you find it beneficial, it being about you? Absolutely. Right now? Absolutely, yeah. So if I'd have told you about me, would that have benefited your therapy?
No, but also yes.
Okay.
And I only say the yes because it's been, for us, it's been years now of almost weekly getting together. And like it or not, you do understand stuff about another person just by spending time together.
Exactly.
Getting to see what makes one laugh, what makes one question. I've found myself now 4.5 years down the line of hearing your voice in my head when I think something, what would Isabel say?
Okay. Yeah.
So even though I don't know you as a person, you still have made an impact on my life just by your presence.
So we still have a relationship
Yeah.
with each other, and our relationship is based on, what would you say, in that therapeutic relationship?
That relationship is based on ease of communication more than anything.
Yeah.
It feels like I don't need a filter. I don't need to come in here with a filter. What will I say? What will I not? I will say whatever comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Because it needs to come out.
That's it. And so then that's why it has to be about you.
Yeah.
That's why it has to be you feeling accepted, validated, and heard.
My response to my friend, for what it's worth, is when you take the car to the mechanic, do you ask him about his children, or does he play golf? What does he do in his spare time? No, you don't.
Yeah.
You trust that he has the garage, he has the skills, you pass off the keys, and you come back when they call you.
Yeah, and that's what we have to do. We have to trust.
Yeah.
And we have to trust ourselves. We have to trust our own instincts and intuition to say, I can't get on with this person. And if I don't, I will leave.
Mm.
Okay.
And there is nothing wrong with that.
No.
I think it's important for everybody to know, like, you are not therapist number one that I've had. It took a very long time to find somebody, for me, that I knew this person's going to help me get well.
Yeah. And that has to be your decision.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say, let's see if we gel in this way. And if we don't, find someone that you will gel to.
Yeah.
But because that's the aim, is the aim is the client is the important person that needs to get well, whether it's with me or whoever they choose.
Mm.
Okay.
Fascinating.
All right.
Now, we spoke about commitment in terms of time.
Mm.
Like, I know this is a long-term, almost investment in my health.
Yeah.
But what would you tell somebody who is afraid of how the fact that this can be a long-term process can affect your finances quite a bit. It can be quite expensive to come to therapy regularly.
Mm.
So what would you tell somebody, pardon me, who's afraid of that financial commitment?
It's their commitment that you commit yourself to many things. We commit ourselves to many things, but that become a hierarchy towards our own health and well-being. So you might commit yourself to having your hair done, or having your nails done, having things like that. But this is having you
done. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how can you really put a value on that? Can you put a value on that? And I know financially, you have to have a look at that area and say, actually, I need to put a value on that. So it might be that you come into therapy and say, okay, this is what I've got, and then take a break and then come back into therapy, because it has to be financially doable for that person as well. So ultimately you decide, as when people come and go, I always say my door's always open, because sometimes you might come and say, do you know what, I'm okay for now, so I'm going to go off, and you might have some more growth, and need to deal with that now, and I'll go back.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Yeah.
Which brings me very nicely to my next question.
Okay.
Which is about knowing what it is you want to talk about.
Okay.
So this now, a different friend comes to mind who is particularly quiet. They don't really speak that much. And they said, my fear of picking up the phone and booking an appointment is that it's not like I have a bereavement I want to get over, or I have work troubles that I want to talk out with someone. I just don't feel happy. That's
okay. There's no list of things that you need to come to therapy to talk about. You are it. Whatever, if you want to have self-discovery or anything like that. So, and I think part of that, you can answer that as well. We've seen each other and you've improved a lot. And, for you, it's our subject matter has changed.
Yes.
And so it might not be, you don't talk about troubles, you talk about learning more about you as a human being.
Mm.
And And that's okay.
I think back, however, to my first session, and this has been the first session with every therapist. There is a point where you are asked something along the lines of, why are you here, or what are your goals? I can imagine for that particular friend sitting opposite a person going, I don't know. I just thought I should come, but I don't know. I can't give you any goals.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to have future goals if you don't want to. You know, there's no, I want to be there. I want this. Because it's an ego. Part of that's an ego story of the want. It might be just because we're supposed to be in the moment, and in the moment you're in the moment. So there's no future plan, is there?
No.
Really, in the moment. I mean, fear and anxiety is fear of the future, or you're anxious about the past repeating itself. So ultimately, you don't have to have anything. You just come, say what you need to say, and we'll grow from there.
Wonderful.
Okay.
And now we're going to come full circle to what we were discussing at the beginning.
Right.
We spoke about trusting the process, and we spoke about trusting yourself. I can speak from experience that when I first arrived, my self-esteem was so low, I did not trust that I could do it. I just trusted that the process was such that I would float along through it until I get to the end of it. I've now seen both aspects from the friends we've spoken about. Those who are very apprehensive about the therapist and their qualifications, but they feel, no, I can do it, however hard it is.
Yeah.
And then you've got those who trust that they will be speaking to somebody qualified who cares about their well-being, but they don't trust that they are strong enough to do it.
So and that's a lot to put on yourself before you've actually come to therapy.
Isn't it just?
That's quite massive. In the number one, you can check out the therapist qualifications, and you can suss whether someone cares about you or not.
Yeah.
You kind of, so did you experience that? Did you experience a caring or an uncaring in your experience of therapy?
With us, I have only experienced care.
Okay.
But I have been unlucky enough to experience lack of care.
Yeah. So, and you trust, although you didn't trust because of the, where you were, you felt, you experienced that, and you trusted that experience, so you left. And then you said your journey was to find a therapist. So it starts in a journey.
Yep.
And you found a therapist, and then your journey was to get well.
Yeah.
And that's all you needed. So that's all you need. You don't need to come with a load of more suitcases that you've already got given throughout your life. You just need to bring you and say these things.
Yeah.
Say, I don't trust. I don't know how to trust myself. I don't know how to trust the process. Because really, if you come week after week after week, you must trust something.
Yeah.
So that's all you need. You just need to get here.
Sometimes, at least in the beginning, that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in the waiting room, either the first or the second session. It was very early in the beginning. And the first thing I told you when I came into the room was I felt like I was at the dentist's waiting room out there.
Yeah.
My tummy all in knots, afraid of what's going to come, because, dentist. But no, she doesn't come nearer than this. No need to open mouths or anything. But being on this side, like 5 years down the line almost, I wish I could send every loved one to a qualified therapist.
Okay.
I really, really do.
Right. Can you elaborate on that to also help people that haven't come into therapy? Is why?
Because I didn't know health could look like this. I didn't know life could look like this.
What does it look like?
Oh, I could be hippie and twee and tell you that the colours are brighter and the smells are stronger. And sometimes they are.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are.
Yeah. And you were so averse to that.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But really, it's the internal monologue has changed entirely. That's the one thing I wish I could put on a megaphone.
So that's your chattering egoic
The
voice.
chatter in my head,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Even at times where it wants to be cruel and it wants to be negative, because that's what it's known for so long, it is so easy to disconnect and go, I'm not going to engage with that.
Yeah.
That's nonsense.
Yeah.
Why am I listening to that nonsense?
And can you describe, how I've said the chattering ego is the evil, and then who are you? So if this is your evil, this is the chattering ego. So this is the recording that society has given, and when you don't listen to the recording anymore, what is that like? What is that experience like for you? That
The ultimate experience is one of peace. But before you get to the peace, or rather before I get to the peace, I feel so strong.
Yeah.
Like it's as strong as pulling yourself up on a pull-up bar kind of strong. I am in control. It is not. I am in control. I will take in the things that are worth taking in, not the nonsense of why life is miserable.
Yeah, so the chattering voice of the ego. So what we do is that is the made up story, because we make stories up. So when, for instance, people speak about having a better life or manifesting a better life or things like that, when we pray, we're inside. So it's inside you pray, but everybody looks outside or they go places to find themselves. It's like you're right inside.
Yeah.
So when we pray, people are like, please God, please God, please God. Yeah. So you're praying in the wrong place. People pray every single day. Every person prays every single day, because a prayer is your thoughts and your feelings. That's a prayer. Every negative word that you say will meet you tomorrow. And so when you let go of the egoic voice and stop letting it pray, because it prays by everything it repeats. It's like it's a recording, or as I say, a parrot, and it repeats itself all the time. So if you have something that's happened, it will repeat and repeat and repeat, and it's on repeat, and you can hear it, can't you? And what we do is we tend to think that's who we are, but it's not who we are. It's just the recording that's been put into our psyche. So what we do then is, when you disconnect from that and you come into the quiet place and you pray for something else, which means you visualize something else, and so you visualize something really nice. Is that the experiences that you're having? You're seeing better pictures in life because the world's your mirror.
Yes.
Okay.
I am seeing better things. I am verbalizing nicer things. I give strangers compliments just because I saw a man in the lift. I liked his trousers. Yeah. I told him, I like your trousers. But he walked out that lift with a bit of a spring in his step, as did I. It cost nothing.
Yeah, because when you give, you get back. Yeah.
I think there's two experiences that are so real to me that I would like to share, because there will be similar people with similar voices and similar heads. And one of them is the word useless. The word useless would repeat in my head at an enormous frequency. Yeah. Anytime something went wrong, why? Because I'm useless, the voice said. It took gosh knows how many sessions to tackle the same ground over and over. But I reached a point where the initial response after the word useless pops up in neon is, for what? For what exactly? What am I meant to be useful for? Why am I even thinking in those terms? And the moment I was able to step back and go, that word doesn't compute anymore. It doesn't apply. It didn't keep coming up in neon.
Yeah, and it kept coming up because you were interested in it and you got a feeling from it, and then you believed it. And so, but it's not actually talking to you because it's a recording. Yeah. So it's just playing it, and then you look and get really interested. So that's why we're asleep, because we're like this. And you're like, wake up, wake up, wake up. But you keep, I'm really interested in this story that I've made up.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't experienced it, then you've interpreted it in a certain way and made something up. So that's the same thing for not good enough.
Yeah.
When you remove your ego, all of it goes. There's no such thing as not good enough. We've made everything up. If it doesn't grow on the ground,
We made it up.
we made it up because it came from afar. All the room, everything in this room came from somebody's thinking. So we are sat in all the brains, all the, the niceness in the world, all the adversity in the world, all the wars in the world are all made up stories, and the projections, if there's a war outside, there's a war in somebody's head that created that war outside in the first place. Everything, all isms, everything is in the evil, is in the ego, and it's a made up story. Because when you listen to your ego, it always believes it's right. It's always, oh, she thinks she's that. It always thinks it knows what other people are thinking. It always thinks it's right. And then if you face the ego and challenge it, it'll get very angry and defensive. So when people say, if you say something to them about the behaviour, they can get very angry and defensive and they don't want to hear it. So the ego will always defend itself, but it will always think that it knows about everybody on the planet when it's never asked them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's our madness, because we believe a recording that's a made up story.
Yeah.
And it can relieve you of everything then. It relieves you of everything. It relieves you of all the things that are negative that you think about yourself can never, ever, ever be true because they're made up.
Yeah. The second thing that I was going to mention was less thought and more action. Because again, there will be people who hurt themselves. I used to bash my thigh very hard because I was angry at me. And it hurt, and I did it regularly. And I don't even know how it happened, but I caught myself one day at the foot of my bed, about to hit myself, and I stroked myself. It's okay, it's good. And just watching that happen, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, because that was the first time I actually felt what self-love can look like.
Yeah.
That acceptance of, even if whatever went wrong, so what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do you now have to be, put up on a cross and tortured because something went wrong? It's fine.
So we take it, so when people go through all kinds of awful experiences and abuses growing up, and we can't wait until we grow up and get older and think, I can't wait so I can get away from this. And then when we get older and we grow up, we don't get away from it.
Go back.
We go back, and it's like, so everyone that comes in, what happened to you? This thing happened to me 50 years ago. And what are you doing with it?
I'm
telling myself it all day, every day. And then what do? I hurt myself with it. But none of it's you, it's all the recording in the ego. The ego will get you, if you believe it, it gets people to kill themselves, put themselves in prison, to have illness and maladaptive behaviours. And so it's a good idea for you to do these things. But it's not, because it's what purpose does it actually serve?
None.
It serves none. And then, so you spend your life today living in yesterday, and everybody else is paying the price for yesterday. And that's what you spend your life in. So your life isn't yours at all. It's second hand, third hand, fourth hand from whoever gave it to you, because their life equally was a recording.
Yeah.
And their generation is a recording, and that generation is a recording. So you're never in the moment, you're never in your life. Your life is the one that you write on your tabula rasa, your blank slate, and that's what you've started to do now, is to write on your own and say, listen, if I'm having thoughts, they're going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A very long time ago, you told me the brain is excited by big words, exciting words, happy words. So I'm not just going to have a good day, I'm going to have a magnificent day.
Yeah, a fantastic
spectacular day.
Exactly.
And just feed it those nice big... If it was a vegetable, it would be a crunchy one.
Yeah.
It gives you something.
Yeah.
So I do try to do that. I found it easy. I think everybody, if they were to attend therapy and actually engage with the process, would come away with lessons almost made for them.
Yeah.
They could be universal, the same lesson for everybody in the population, but they would be so specific to them at the same time that it feels easy to incorporate, easy to experiment.
But with that as well, we have to be ready. So ready, what I mean by that is, if you've ever watched a film and then you've watched it again and you said, I don't remember seeing that in the film last time.
Yeah.
Then the first time you weren't ready to hear it, or you weren't ready to see it, and then the second time you were, and you could watch it a third time and spot something else again. And sometimes when we say things to people, they're not heard because you're not ready to hear them. But someone else might say it, and then they'll come and tell you, like a parent, they'll say, I've been saying that to you for years, but I just wasn't ready. Yeah. So where you've gone, you've been ready. I'm ready for this. I'm ready to hear about the ego, and I'm ready to let the ego go. But for some, they're not ready. So although you can, the healing is yours, all the healing is yours, because we're fantastic human beings and we're capable of healing our bodies, because this is our car, and so we need to take care of it. And so the way to take care of it is to look on the inside. But because the world outside distracts us so much with all the psychological junk food that we're fed, negativity, constantly the addiction to mobile phones now is quite a thing. There's barely any eye contact because everybody's just staring at the phone. So it's that, because everybody's so interested in the external, they're not ready to go inside. And they can't hear it. And quite often their ego, when they know something, they'll say, oh yeah, I'm doing that, but they're actually not. It's just that they know it. Yeah, but the ego knows it. And it's like, then it'll say, oh, well,
here's all the reasons why not. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Do you think there's people who will never be ready?
I think we're all ready, but we don't know yet.
Okay.
Yeah, does that make sense?
It does. I think back, if I were somebody brand new and terrified, how would I know if I'm ready? You can't know until you try, can you?
No. So back then, did you know you were ready for this? Did you know this existed?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, because people say this exists, but
people lie through their teeth all the time.
The ego's unstable and it constantly lies. And you can see people's ego playing out, because it's like Dramaville. Yeah, so when you go out, it's just Dramaville. It's like that's all you can hear is the dramas playing out. And so because at the beginning you didn't know that you were going to be the person that you are today. So when you say, do you think everybody's ready? It's like, yes.
Good. I mean, if I heard that, I think I'd be hopeful.
For it to be real, not because the word realistic comes from the ego. No, you need to be realistic. You need to be down to it. You need to do all this, and this, and these rules. It's like, no, it's realistic. It is not a word really that exists outside of the ego.
I get that. I understand what you're saying.
Because it's a limitation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to hold you back.
It's in the same category as should.
Should, would, have you got to, all those unwritten rules that we do. I've got to get tea on. It's like, why are you going to get into trouble if you don't? And it's the rules that adults agree on, but they're not. It's like, why do you agree on that when you don't have to do it? But we feel that we have to, and it's because we're in a prison.
Yeah.
There's no bars. There's a door that's wide open if there was one, but we want to stay in it because we've been programmed into being in a prison.
We've been programmed into thinking this is all there is.
Yeah.
That's it. That even if the door is there and open, we've been programmed to see no door.
Exactly. Exactly. Just like you see an elephant and it's got a rope around its neck, and it's been like that since it was
born.
And so you could take the rope off it and it would stay, and that's what we do. And lots of people say, you know, when you watch people in cults, I'd never do that. It's like, actually you do. So it's that. So do you feel that you've come out of your prison?
I feel like I am toying with my prison.
Okay.
It still has a pull. I am just in a much better place to resist it. I want to reach a point where it's not even a matter of resistance, where it's a matter of, yeah, there's a prison right there, I'm not going there.
Yeah.
But I still have some work to do. It's just much nicer to be here and go, it's some work.
Yeah.
The hard, long, difficult, emotional bits feel like they have been... Resolved might not be the right word, but at least uncovered. We know what's on the table and we know what's come off. And like you said earlier, there might be more things that need to come onto the table as and when we get to them. But until such a time, I have so much faith in me, know that everything I want to do, I will, that this is more support. I do not feel like I rely on therapy as much now as I did 3-4 years ago. There, I needed the space and the time to fall apart and come back together again.
Yeah, so it's like you were stripped down,
Yeah.
and then you built yourself up again. And it's also that people are different, so not everybody needs years.
Yeah.
You know, so it's that you decided to dedicate until you got to where you wanted to be. So you eventually got a focus and said, I want what you've got. Yeah, I want that. And so it's like, okay, let me show you what that is, what that feels like.
And for what it's worth, there's been recommendations that I tried and I went, yeah, no, that's not for me.
Yeah.
And there's been recommendations where I assumed it wouldn't be for me, but when I tried it, I was like, yeah, I'm taking this. I like this. I will be doing this.
Yeah.
So I think an open mind is crucial, especially when or if you join up with a therapist whose outlook is so different. Because if nothing else, you were at a place of health when I came at a place of ill health. And we wouldn't see eye to eye. It was too difficult for me to understand what a healthy mindset, what a healthy life looks like. So, as odd as it is, I would recommend to every loved one I have who might go down such a journey to give it a bit more time and be completely and utterly honest. If you said something that made me angry, the first thing I would tell you is, you made me angry.
Yeah.
I wouldn't beat around the bush. What's the point?
Exactly, and it's that honesty to say that, you know, we bump into each other sometimes, and when, you know, everything sometimes is a trial and error, and getting to know you getting to know me. So sometimes our responses or reactions might not be on the same page, but it's being able to say that. It's being able to, that if there's a rupture, we're strong enough to mend it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you say strong enough to mend it. I think for me, the more important bit was, okay, let's look at what made you angry. What about what I said made you angry?
Yeah.
The meta-ness of it. Because if there's one thing I learned is if it comes out in this room, it needed to come out.
Yeah.
It needed to. So let's tackle it and see what it means.
Yeah, and what's behind it. Let's have a look and see that. And the interpretation that you took and the way that I said it and all those things to be able to look at.
I remember asking you, aren't you bored of saying the same thing? Because it had been weeks where we were tackling the same piece of my life, and it's the same advice that came week in, week out, week in, week out. And you use pretty much the same examples, you use pretty much the same words, and I have a very good memory. So after week 4 or week 5, are you not bored? And it was the genuineness, the authenticity of going, I love saying these things. I love every single time I say this. I am sharing it something that I love with somebody who will take advantage of it and find it useful.
Yeah.
So,
And how many times did you not get bored of hearing that 2 + 2 is 4?
no.
So there. How many times do you think somebody repeated on your recording, and how many times did you say such things as you're not good enough?
Mm.
So that's where it is. It's repeat, repeat, repeat.
Like we repeated all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
We can repeat all the good stuff.
Yeah, and isn't it nice to repeat all the good stuff?
Absolutely.
There you go. Do you have any more questions before we end?
I don't think so. We've covered all the written ones.
Okay.
Nothing else